we're going to be making perfect procedural braids in Blender using spline curves. It's gonna be a bit mathy, but we're gonna be able to make this and they'll be able to draw and write out whatever we want. Let's jump right in. So we have a Blender scene right here. We're gonna delete the default cube. We're gonna add in a curve Bezier. Perfect. That's gonna be what we're working on. We're gonna go into Geometry Nodes, New System. Let's just call it Braids. And then to make it really easy starting off, let's just do a curve line. So let's replace this initial geometry with just this, so we can see it just coming up like this. Great. Okay, so now that we're doing this, we're gonna think about this kind of a couple ways. At first, we're gonna start off just in like regular Cartesian coordinates, and then we're gonna go into, I think it's called a Frenet Serret frame, which is basically using tangent, normal, and binormal. We'll talk about that more later, but okay. Great, we're coming in. We have this curve right here. We're gonna resample it a bunch of times, like 300 times. So we have a lot of points to work with. And then we are going to do a set position on this. Okay, so let's think about this. To do a braid, we're gonna wanna basically have multiple strands interweave among everything, if I even draw it correctly, which I'm not drawing correctly at all. Basically, it's gonna be a combination of a sine wave in like multiple ways. So on screen right now, I'll show you the formula for like how to do the offsets. This is just a math derived thing, so you can see it, and we're gonna make it out together. So looking at this, we can see how it's gonna be basically a sine function that's gonna be offset by some sort of constant. And then we're also going to be having like a strand count and an index of the strand to kind of offset it overall. So that's gonna be the things we care about, right? So I guess starting off, let's just work on one, and then you can kind of see how it comes together. So let's do a combine XYZ and pipe it in here. Nothing's gonna happen. And then what we're gonna use for that overall offset is we can use the factors. We're gonna do like a spline parameter. Great. Okay, so the first one, we gotta make a sine function come in. So we're gonna do a math with a sine function, and that's eventually gonna go into here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this and pump a bunch of stuff into it. We're gonna do a math. Let's just say tau. It's gonna be 2 pi. And we're gonna multiply this by some sort of cycle. So let's say a value. Let's just say 2 or something. It can be whatever we want. This is gonna be also multiplied. It's gonna be also multiplied by the factor. And that's gonna be the way we go down it. Cool. We have that coming in like this. And we also wanna add something else inside of it. Just multiply that. There we go. Then we're gonna be adding this with something else. It's gonna be a 2 pi times k, and k is going to be the number index of the current strand, which starts off as 0 or 1. Let's just say 1 for now. Let's actually make this a value. Let's just rename this to be k, and then let's rename this to be r, so it's really clear for in here. It's gonna be this, and this is also gonna be then divided by n, which is the total number of strands. So let's just start this off with 3 strands. Great. We plug all of this into this spline right here, and now we're seeing a sine value offset it along the x-axis. So we have it on the combine XYZ X. So that kind of makes sense, right? So what's cool is all of this can then go into a function because we can reuse a lot of this. So let's think about this. It's the k and the n we want to have as parameters because that's going to be different things we care about. The r is also probably going to be a parameter because it's also something we're going to care about. And then the factor does not need to be a parameter because that can be the same thing. Because remember, the factor is going from like 0 to 1. It's going all the way along. That's how we get this overall offset looking okay. So let's just grab all of this like this on the side. Whoops, like this. Gonna keep this over here. We're gonna grab all of this and do Control G. So now we gotta make sure we label these correct. So we can know this first value is the R. So we're gonna do N for Nelly. Go into the node. Where is it? Should be able to change the input names. RKN. There we go. RKN. I guess it's a lowercase k, so it'd be consistent for y'all. Great, that's coming in. And we also know that we want to have, by looking at the parameters of both of it, 1 doubled. So we're gonna have 1 more at the bottom. Oops, I'm gonna say input, and this will just be like some sort of constant, and this will be coming in. Oops, cool, great, that's coming through. And then we want to multiply the constants into both of these chains as well. So we know we have have the add right here at the end. So between both of these, we want to also add in that multiply because we want to have that be before both of them. So we just go like this and we just go less. Very straightforward. For this one should be 1. Then if we do Control Shift G or Control Shift D, my bad, then this constant actually should be different. 1, pop it into here. This one should be 2, put it in the Y. And now we're having this offset looking pretty good. So now it's kind of coming through and it's looking like we're almost getting that braid shape, but it's just one, we're just having one value for it. So let's make sure we can have this work as well for the extra braids. So this is working for 1, and we could manually basically take this, duplicate it, grab, and then offset it. And that could kind of be the same thing. But what's cool is we have this thing right here. We have, before we resample it, we can do, I guess after the resample to make it really clean, we have a duplicate elements. And we're going to duplicate it 3 times. It's going to be a spline. And then I want to store that attribute, the duplicate index. So store named attribute. Let's call this here integer. And we'll say strand like index, right? So then we know the strand index is the K value right here. So then we actually need to change this. So we go into here. We can change this value right here to be an integer, and let's just see if it would work. So we do named attribute float integer strand index, pipe it in. It's looking like it's working, and we pipe it in. So this K is no longer needed. Using the strand index, that's working for both. Isn't that great? So we have the 3 curves we now see, and they're all offset correctly. And then the N is going to be the number of overall strands. I guess to be really clean, let's also change this back to be an index or an integer too. And then that will be better for it as well. Awesome. So now we have that. It's looking like it's working. And then if we did an integer, we did right here, integer, and we made this more, we're seeing how it would then split and shift this. It's different. This integer should be the same number for here on the duplicate account as well as the offset. So we can take this right here. We pop this up. We're getting more coming through. That looks good. And then we also want to have some parameters to change this. So we can change the width like this way and that way. So let's add those in really quick. It might just be at the end right here. Let's just play around with it and see. So math, multiply, yeah, just right there. We can do that to change it. That would then change this and that. So we have these parameters to change how that's going to be working. If we were to mess with these, we can just see what happens. This just changes the overall offset of the braid, but it's all moving together, which is nice. And then this is kind of the other direction for the offset. And then this is also both at the same time. So very cool. Obviously it's all math. We can play with it however we want. Cool. And so then the Z doesn't really matter because we're just doing the offset on the overall spline, so it should work. Cool. So this works for perfectly orthogonal, like Cartesian coordinates going up and down. If we were to change this curve line and have it go here, it's no longer working. It's looking all flat. It's trying its best to kind of work, but it's not looking great, right? So how can we make it work? What we're going to want to do is think about the, coordinate system. So for this one, we have Z, Y, and X, right? But also too, when it comes to lines and splines, we have another kind of way of thinking about them. So let's look at just this spline right here. We have another way of looking at it. So we have, let's say this point right here, we have the tangent. Let's just call it T. And we also have the normal, which is going to be going that way. And then we have, if we have both of these and we cross them, it's like N cross T, we can have that last dimension going up, out, and that would be the binormal, right? So that we have kind of like a pseudo 3D axis on every point as it kind of moves along the curve. That would then work to map it correctly. So let's just do that really quick. Awesome. So we have this working. It will still work for this too. So we can then do these last vectors. So let's work on that. So we're going to do a vector math. And this is going to be going into the offset now. We no longer want to have this, and we're going to want to be doing a few different ones. It's all going to be added together. I guess let's just think about that as it's happening. Let's do the first one. So we know we need to have, so we're going to have like X equals the normal, Y equals the binormal, and then the Z will be the tangent. Great. That's going to be what we're going to use. So then how are we going to get a tangent? We have curve tangent. I can type correctly. Curve tangent right here. It's not, is it spline tangent? No, curve tangent. Great. It's a vector. And then we're going to want to use the curve. I guess we can just do normal right here. And if we cross these two, we're going to get the binormal. So let's take this. We might want to do this before or after the duplicate elements. We'll see. I kind of forget. So we're going to want to take this. So let's do, maybe it'll just work. Let's just find out. So we're going to do a spline or a vector math, and we can do the cross product, which will take the normal and the tangent and find the face that's orthogonal to the two of them. That's what cross products do. So if you had a plane like this, like a y and an x, you're going to get the cross product, which is the z. That's just how cross products work. Is it's going to find the orthogonal like direction for this, like between the two different vectors essentially. So if we have this and then we multiply this by this and pop it in here and pop it in here, and then if we have the normal and we multiply it, we pop it in here, we now have it. Look, it looks exactly the same as we were seeing before because it is the same way of thinking about it. And the last thing we're missing is we want to add in the tangent. So let's just do that really quick. So we're going to do the tangent multiplied again by what? The spline parameter. That's the same thing we're using, spline parameter, and it's going to be the factor. Pop it in. We push this into the position. It'll be exactly the same because that's exactly how we were expecting it to work. Isn't that pretty cool? Okay, so I'm going to use the offset because we're going to need to have the offset in order for it to like work correctly, especially when we start drawing the spline. Let's just see. We plug it to this. We're now seeing it look like it's working. Isn't that nice? And so then what we can do is we can take, why is this not, because this one's here. We don't need to have this. There we go. And so let's just clean it up a little bit. So what we should do instead of this, we should do a length evaluation for it, like 0.05. So we'll have a bit more points. And then at the end of it, we can do a set spline type and just change it to like a NURBS, and that will clean it up as well. So now if we tab in and we go to draw, we can then draw whatever curve we want, and it's all gonna work exactly how we were hoping for. So isn't that cool? And another thing to think about is we can also then change how we wanna like take in this. So we have this as the spline factor. So let's just take this and plug it right here. And then we do this instead. If we were to take this to be the length rather than the factor, it would also then change how it's working and make it completely uniform and the same. So if we add a value beforehand to change it, so we do a math node here and say like multiply it by like this, we now can choose how many times we want the braid to be going. So I think like half is fine and that works well, right? Anyways, so we're looking at this. Now let's clean it up a little bit so it looks a bit cleaner. So we have this coming in, and then this. So let's add some frames. So we add this, and it's Control F, it's Control J. What is it? It's a Shift P, my bad. Shift P. So this right here is going to be the tan. I guess it's the Z. Cool. This right here, binormal calc, right? And then this is going to be the normal calculation. As we can see, I don't think we need to have a frame for it. We'll do it anyway. We can say normal. I guess we should say this is the X and this is the Y. So we have X, Y, and Z. So it all kind of works perfectly. Nice. And what's cool is we can have an arbitrary number of curves on the overall spline, and that will then work for how we want to see it. So let me just kind of play around with these dimensions so it's looking a bit better. I'm going to go onto this. I guess first what I want to do is also then do a mesh to curve on this, right? So we can do a set or trim curves. We have this, so we can have this nicely work, right? Which is pretty fun. And then what's also cool is we have this option right here, this named attribute. So if we did equals and we use this as the selection, we can then choose which curve we want to trim. Let's lower this back down to 3, and then we can see how it would work. Maybe increase the density to like 1, and then we have this right here to look. We can take this and choose only one to trim initially. So then if you were to stack them, you could do a cool little animation where like it's slowly offset. And I guess we could do that really quick if we just had multiple trims in a row, and then we did 1, 2, right? Plug it all in. And then what we can have then is have a math value. So let's say a math value, and let's just say subtract 0.1. So we have those kind of offsetting it. And then we want to have one value, I guess it could be an add, plugging it in. If I take this, so if we just took this as a value then, so it'd be a value, and it's offset just slightly. We have one value doing them all. The 0.1 is probably too much. It would be like 0.05. See, there we go. It's all kind of triggered nicely. So I guess all of this can be going into another node group, which we could call this like animation for the trim. That's okay. Let's just say like 2, so we know it's for sure done. And then we're gonna go to a mesh to curve, curve to mesh, and then we're gonna do curve circle. Radius should be like 8, like 2, maybe even less, like 0.01, who knows. Fill the caps. Then we can figure out what makes the most sense for this radius. 0.05, and if we play with this, maybe it would also be fun to have these curves also have their overall shape be impacted by the parameter too. The spline parameter. And if we did this float curve, did this. Nice. And we kind of have these really thin ends to the strips, which is, it kind of works out okay, I think. So what we could do also is, I guess, have a minimum size, which we could probably scale. It could just be a bit bigger. And then we can do a map range. So we know this is going into here, 0 to 1. So we have the same 0 to 1, but maybe the minimum could be like 0.01 or like 0.1. Nice. We can do a set material. Go into shading. Is this working? Cool. And we just set a scene and make a really quick material. I think we'll probably just do my lazy one, which is just max subsurface, increase the scale, pop it in, then that a little bit less, who knows. And let's pull the roughness down, make it shiny. Cool. I'm really happy with it. I think this is actually just a good base math tutorial, and you kind of get this really clean knitting kind of braid effect. I'm happy with it. I think it looks good. It's a bit dynamic. And then again, too, like the whole point of this is we have this coming in, and so then we can do whatever we want with it. I could say whatever I want to say. I could say like subscribe, and that works. It's kind of a fun, kind of like braided text effect. It's super easy to do. Hope you guys learned something. There's a whole bunch of stuff to do and to kind of figure out with it. Yeah, I hope you guys liked it. It was a lot of fun to make. It'll be on my Patreon if you want to like get the effect yourself. So feel free to, use whatever you want to use to make it. Yeah, so thanks so much for watching, guys, and hope you guys learned something, and have a great rest of your day.